All right, good people. We are loving the networking. We're going to get settled, resettled, back into space. Let me tell you, when we were pulling this convening together, we were like, who do we want? And we were like the heavy hitters who actually make things happen at every agency that's doing this work. And so we're super excited for this conversation because we've got Kristina Costa, who's the Deputy Advisor to the President for Clean Energy Innovation and Implementation at the White House, to talk a little bit more about the Inflation Reduction Act, what it means. One of the things that I really appreciate is maybe about 2 weeks ago, we were all together at the White House, and she was like, we need to figure out how we are gonna mobilize folks to action around IRA. And I was like, yes. But I was like, I know the group who can do it. And it's actually almost all of y'all in this room in this moment. So I'm really excited for the conversation. We also have Anisha Steephen from the U.S. Department of Treasury. Anisha has been literally helping to think about not just direct pay, but 48E, what it means in community in place. She comes from community, she's living this thing, and we all have to answer the call, right? So this notion of service, being in government is not easy, and it's also critical to have folks who have been on the ground to actually also be helping to set the rules and policies. And I'm excited because both Anisha and Alexandra Gallo have been doing the work in place and are now in the federal government, helping to really think about how these rules help to support communities. Alex has been great because when we talk about this community change grant, I don't know that NOFAs are sexy and exciting, but what I will say is that when you start to think about anti-displacement policies and how we make sure that these billions of dollars are actually seeded to communities, this is one of the only community-based organization is the lead applicant for the federal money that's flowing in this moment. And when EPA said that, hey, the lead for this program, this $2 billion program, are gonna be community-based organizations, I was like, whoa. We have never seen this before. This is our taxpayer dollars actually working in service to us. And for all of the plans that we stewarded during the Obama administration, all the place-based initiatives that talked about, sustainable communities and what it means in this moment, we never actually had the capital. We couldn't build the vision. And in this moment, the Community Change Grant is that seed money that CBOs can actually unlock as part of that capital stack so that we can sit at the table and say, guess what? I got $10 million to bring to the table. How about you? And have a different conversation with investors, third-party installers, other folks who want to try to invest in our communities, but often tell us that in order for us to actually maximize and receive the benefits, we have to show up in a very specific way. This money helps to do a completely different conversation. So I'm hoping that you all can really help, this session will help to unlock kind of the thought process, and then later on this afternoon, they're gonna go real deep in the weeds with y'all to really make sure that not only do you understand the programs, but that you can benefit from it. With that, I'll turn it over to the panelists. Thanks, y'all.
Well, thanks so much, Stephanie, and thanks, Helen and the entire Communities First team, and thanks to all of you for being here this morning. This is an incredible program, and you know that it's an incredible program when everybody wants to just keep strategizing and scheming together instead of sitting back down and listening to us chatter. So I'm very excited for what you're all going to figure out how to do this afternoon with this esteemed group together. We are 18 months into implementation of the Inflation Reduction Act. Everyone here knows that it is the biggest investment in US history, probably in world history, for combating climate change and building a clean energy economy. And it has so many superlatives within the law that it's actually hard to tick through them all, but we've got the biggest investment in rural electrification since the New Deal. We've got the biggest new federal resources for repurposing and reimagining legacy fossil fuel infrastructure to deliver new and more sustainable benefits to communities. We have more than $12 billion to protect communities from harmful air pollution. We've got $9 billion for consumer rebate programs run by the states to help low and middle income households get the benefits of electrification, get the benefits of energy efficiency, save money on their energy bills. And of course, we got this little chunk of change for $27 billion for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. No big deal. And that's just the grant side of this baby. We've got 24 new and expanded clean energy tax provisions to bring private investment off the sidelines, accelerate the clean energy economy with unprecedented certainty for the private sector, 10 years or more in many instances for folks to plan and build projects. But also these very exciting new tools that both Anisha and Alex are going to talk in more depth about that will really help us democratize in many ways how the clean energy economy is built and owned and operates in this country for the long term. And that is what is most exciting, I think, at the end of the day about the Inflation Reduction Act. It's not the headline numbers. It's not how fast we are sprinting to get this law implemented, although I will just say that we have launched more than 80% of the grant programs in this law in just the first 18 months. We are on track to get 80% of the funding obligated by the end of this calendar year. We have guidance out on nearly every one of those tax provisions. We've got a lot more work to do, as Anisha knows very well, with our Treasury colleagues this year. But we are setting land speed records for implementing tax policy in this administration. And all of that would be great. All of that would be historic and so exciting and thrilling and open up all of these opportunities. But the most exciting thing I think about this law and about how the administration is going about implementing it is how we are trying to drive all of those investments. Within the law, within the structure of the bill, we have bonuses for paying good wages, for using domestic content, for investing in legacy energy communities, for investing in low-income communities through the low-income communities bonus tax credit, which Anisha can get a bit deeper on. They've been really driving a lot of the vision of that out of the Treasury Department with our colleagues at the Department of Energy. And so for us, really what success looks like in implementing this law is not only meeting our climate and clean energy goals. We know we have to do that, but doing it in a way that increases opportunity and shares benefits directly with communities. And that's where all of these really innovative new tools come in. Things like direct pay that open up for the first time ever to states, cities, tribes, territories, nonprofit organizations, churches, universities, community groups, the ability to access the same kinds of benefits that private industry has been able to get for a long time for investing in clean energy, building clean energy projects, investing in electric transportation. And not only does it give them those benefits, it lets them own that power in a way that will continue paying those benefits out for years and years and years to come. 48 little e, as we like to affectionately call it, which is that low-income communities bonus tax credit. Complicated program, you gotta apply. Congress decided to limit how much allocation was available every year. Maybe they didn't think that the demand was out there. Anisha can say more, but the demand is out there. Everyone is really rallying together to access this program and to build these innovative new projects in communities that really need the benefits of the clean energy economy the most. The community change grants, as Stephanie highlighted, and as Alex will dig into more, so I don't want to scoop her on that. But then finally, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. EPA, I know, is in the throes of making the selections for the first two big competitions. We expect to have some really exciting news to share soon. And those selections are going to unlock entire new ecosystems of finance, entire new project models that are aimed at delivering the benefits to the communities that need it the most, but having those communities be partners in envisioning what the clean energy economy can mean for them, what opportunities it can unlock in electricity and housing, in electricity and in energy efficiency and transportation, and it, like the tax credits, the thing I think that is really exciting about the GGRF is that like this is not going to be a one and done. This is going to completely transform the landscape for the next 10 years and the 10 years after that and the 10 years after that if we do this right. And so the historic nature of this law is not just in the top line figures, it's not just in the sticker price, but it's in this work that we're going to be doing together to seed a very different kind of clean energy economy than I think well, the group of the folks in this room were imagining a long time ago, but I don't know that Congress really knew exactly what we were all going to get up to together. So it's going to be very exciting. So I want to turn to my esteemed fellow panelists to dive, as I said, a bit deeper into the work that they're doing at their agencies on these really exciting programs. Anisha, maybe I can start with you to do a bit more on the tax side and talk about some of these new financialization tools and other approaches that Treasury is really piloting.
Thank you, Kristina, and thank you so much, everyone, for having me here. I'm so excited to be with all of you. I see a lot of very familiar faces, and I want to echo Deputy Secretary Adiemo's thank you to all of you for all of the work that you do in communities. I've been in your shoes for the majority of my career, actually, so I know how hard it is to do the work, and I think we're in an interesting time and opportunity where there are so many resources for the type of work that we want to do, but putting it all together takes all the brilliant minds in this room to actually deliver the benefits, and not just energy benefits, but really true economic benefits into communities. At Treasury, I'm a senior advisor to the Counselor for Racial Equity. So I spend all of my time thinking about how we actually include more people in the economic prosperity of our nation. And we do that in a way that Black, Latino, AAPI, Native communities, again, don't just experience investments from the federal government, but are leaders, owners, able to shape how investments happen in their community. I work in taxes at Treasury, which is just complicated. There's no way to go. I've worked in taxes my entire life, professional life, and I still learn new things every day. I realized only recently that from our perspective, we try to give you thousands of pages of tax guidance and information because it'll be clearer to you, which is bananas because it's just more words that no one understands. But I think these are really powerful tools. And I think the thing in my brain that I think about and keeps me up at night is that these are tax incentives that have built wealth, have shaped our economy for generations. And certain parts of America take advantage of them like it's no big deal, left and right. These are things that people feel entitled to, but all of you are entitled to them. These are credits that everybody should take advantage of. As Kristina mentioned, there are more than 20 new tax credits or modified tax credits created by the IRA. Only 2 of them are competitive. All of the rest of them are uncapped. So if you follow, or any of your communities meet the eligibility and requirements that are in our thousands of pages of guidance, they're available to you over the next 10 years. So I think we don't ever really talk about that, but again, people think that the tax code does not work for them. Take advantage of it. A lot of people do it. So Kristina mentioned there's, energy generation tax credits, there's manufacturing and production tax credits, there's home energy efficiency tax credits. There are all these varieties. There's also credits for consumers. So if you are a homeowner or a builder, there are tax credits for you. But the majority of them, I would say, are business credits. So they go to businesses or to organizations, local governments, et cetera. There are these bonuses that help maximize the value of the credit. So there are 4 of those bonuses. There's energy communities, as Kristina mentioned, for former coal communities, legacy fossil fuel industry areas. There's domestic content for domestically made materials, using domestically made materials. There is prevailing wage and apprenticeship, so that as we are doing, major federal investments, it's not just businesses that are economically benefiting from these credits, but also our workforce. And then there's 48E, the Low Income Communities Bonus, which is a competitive allocated credit to support investments in low-income communities on Indian land as part of affordable housing, and projects that directly benefit low-income households. For these 48E, the Low-Income Communities Bonus is for solar and wind projects. This is one of the credits that I design and lead. And one of the ways, because it's an allocated credit, that we really thought about setting the tone for the vision that we want to see in the clean energy economy is that we set aside half of the program for different types of sponsors. So if you are a tax-exempt entity, if you are a local government, a tribal government, an Alaska Native corporation, consumer or worker cooperative, or a small renewable energy company that has not seen increase in market share, half of the program is set aside for you. So as Kristina mentioned, there is high demand for this program. In the first 30 days, we got over 46,000 applications. That was four times the amount of capacity that we have available. There's still capacity available for projects that are led by those types of organizations that we mentioned, because we know, and we have seen over time, that projects in our most vulnerable communities take time to put together, because the IRA did not solve discrimination. It did not solve access to capital challenges. It is all these other things that are still in our ecosystem that Treasury, the White House, EPA, we're all working on. We'll all tell you that. But those are the realities of today, right? So there's so much money out there, but there are still major barriers. One of the new, or two of the new mechanisms that sort of underpin all of the IRA credits are elective pay, or I think the public calls it direct pay, and transferability. So these are real game changers for many communities. For tax-exempt entities or entities that have not had or don't have tax liability to offset by tax credits, you can now monetize these credits if you are a certain type of tax-exempt entity by getting a direct payment from the IRS. There's also transferability, which I call direct transfer, which is where you don't have to enter into tax equity in the same type of structures that you saw before. There are ways where you can directly transfer these credits to an investor for an agreed upon third-party price. These are really, for any of y'all familiar with LIHTC and new markets tax credit, that's the world that I come from, we just made things a lot simpler. Not for LIHTC and new markets, but for all of energy. I'm working on LIHTC, and you guys will get there, long-term goals. But so the bigger picture goal of the IRA from my mind is that I'm a big believer in self-determination. We want every type of community in this country to figure out how they want to participate in the energy transition. If you want to own assets, own the assets. If you want to engage with different types of stakeholders, different types of community partners, do all of those things. Now you have flexibility. There are all of the different types of tools. The point that I made earlier about we still have not solved the major structural challenges that affect our communities, I really would challenge the funders, philanthropy, private investors, our banking institutions, that we created an ecosystem for housing development in this country. We've created an ecosystem around community development investments, and we need to do the same for energy. We need to think about if tax credits are the anchor from the public in meeting a set of goals, how are we reimagining the overall systems that are going to help all of the communities that we care about actually see these benefits in these communities? So Kristina, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Anisha. Here I am. Thanks so much, Anisha. A really tremendous overview, and couldn't agree more that we can put out our super clear, very transparent guidance, but we need everybody else to take it and operationalize it and help build the entire ecosystem around it. And that is also you did a great job setting up Alex, because the money's out there, but the capacity needs, the capacity gaps, the challenges that all of you and your organizations deal with every day in the communities that you work in still exist. And that is why the Community Change Grant Program from EPA is such a tremendous opportunity. It's not going to solve every problem. Even $2 billion can't do that, though. We're going to make it go as far as it possibly can. So Alex, why don't we turn it over to you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kristina. And hello, everyone. I just want to thank Communities First for organizing such an amazing event. I've been waiting for it all week, so so excited to be here. Special advisor at EPA, specializing in implementation of the Inflation Reduction Act. As part of that, helped to lead and design the Community Change Grants, which is the largest environmental justice opportunity in the country and really in the world. We've never seen funding like this before. And I so greatly appreciate Stephanie's comments and remarks about our backgrounds because I've spent a majority of my career working hand in hand with communities with environmental justice concerns to help them actualize their visions for climate adaptation, resilience, and community change, right? Hence the name. And one of the hardest things in doing that is trying to build back the layers of inequity built into programs all across different levels of government. And with the Inflation Reduction Act, we had the opportunity to build something new, to build something from scratch, and that is so rare in government. And so I want to talk a little bit about our process in developing the community change grants because our process led directly to what we have as this funding opportunity, which truly can and I believe will reflect the needs and the wants of communities who have been disenfranchised, underinvested for so long. So I started at EPA just over a year ago. As Kristina mentioned, we have done so much in such a short amount of time to implement the Inflation Reduction Act. Very first goal that agency sent out for me was to work directly with organizations all across the country to develop a framework for this program. So over 1,000 organizations wrote directly to EPA. I've recognized so many names here today who I've read your letters in detail, highlighted, noted, so many of my team members as well. And I can confidently say that we've reflected many of what was asked, which is this comprehensive approach to community investment, one that can help tackle multiple community priorities. I know how difficult it is to want and really need different types of projects and infrastructure to make change happen. And applying for 7 to 8 different programs over 20 years is just does not suffice. And when it comes to environmental justice needs, climate action, all of the disasters happening all over the world and the country, we cannot do this in silos. And so this program really breaks down silos. Through this program, as Stephanie mentioned, in the $10 to $20 million range, communities can apply for a variety of clean energy projects ranging from decarbonization in homes, as well as commercial buildings, the development of community resilience centers, hubs to go, that are run by community and partnered with so many different entities when there are climate or other disasters. Also green infrastructure, nature-based solutions. And then the pollution reduction side of things, right? The active removal of health-harming, persistent pollution that has impacted community health for so long. So the ability to apply for all of these different types of projects under one proposal, work together with community members in order to do this is truly unprecedented. And unfortunately, Congress did not give us the gift of time in implementing this. One of the biggest challenges of all of our jobs, I think. And so these are 3-year grant opportunities. So I really want that to be one of the main takeaways, that the time is now, and this funding opportunity is available on a rolling basis. So through November 2024, that is when we close this $2 billion funding opportunity. And as Stephanie mentioned, this is funds directly to community-based nonprofit organizations, local governments as well, tribal governments, institutions of higher education, but partnerships are required and doing so will help us meet our goals of spending all these funds down and getting them to the communities who need it most. In addition to the $2 billion we have for this funding opportunity, we also have $200 million available in technical assistance. The environmental justice movement really delivered on this for us. We've heard time and time again over years the need for capacity building and technical assistance support. I'll be honest, we are building and implementing and trying to deliver the best we can. We're relying on so many different folks to help us do that, including many of you in the room. But also our technical assistance providers have never seen such an influx of inquiries before, and so we asked to help be patient with us and them as they move through this, but there are several technical assistance opportunities. I'm going to Las Vegas tomorrow to do many of these types of events to reach communities all across the country. I also want to take a moment to highlight our target investment areas. This is truly unprecedented as well, wanting to make sure our funds reach those who need it most. We're the first national program in the country to dedicate funds to disadvantaged unincorporated communities. Communities that do not have representation, thank you, yes. Really pushed also by advocates. Communities that do not have representation, lack basic services, and so we'll be doing several in-person events with unincorporated communities to help bring these resources to light. We also have large set-asides for tribes, as well as island communities within territories, and communities along the southern border. And so we'll be visiting all of these communities in order to help make sure that resources get there. But these are targets, right? And we have $2 billion available. So for all the rural communities, urban communities, there is truly something for everyone. And we want to see this money touch every single part of the different, diverse communities all across the country. A couple other things I wanted to highlight, again, really pushed by all of you in the room and so many others, are the truly innovative things that we've integrated into this program and at EPA. And I will say, as someone in government, you don't always get to use the word innovation, but I can truly say that we've integrated so many different aspects. So as I've already mentioned, in the first time in over a decade, we are doing one-year rolling applications. And so communities and applicants don't need to all compete against each other during one specific deadline with 3 months to kind of scramble your materials together. Applicants will have several opportunities to work with different organizations and refine their applications as best as possible. And if the applicant is unsuccessful, you will have an opportunity to get a debrief from EPA and resubmit that application for review again. That is something that is brand new at EPA, and we're really excited about that. In addition to that, we've integrated oral presentations as part of our application reviews. So we will be able to hear directly from community partners on what this grant means to them, how they will implement these funds, and what were the community-driven aspects of these applications. Again, first ever to do this. We're learning a lot as we're building this out, but we are so excited to uplift lived experience as part of the first ever environmental justice implementation opportunity. There will also be opportunities to serve as an external reviewer. So if you are interested in helping to make sure that these funds get to those who need it most, if you have specialty and expertise that we may be lacking at EPA, we're trying to build up our workforce to support Inflation Reduction Act. But we also know there's so many people who are doing good work in clean energy space, pollution reduction, workforce development, and we could really benefit from your expertise. And I do want to highlight something that EPA has always been doing, but I know folks aren't always aware. These grants are advance payment. So the lead applicant will not have to rely on reimbursement. Thank you, yeah. Won't take credit for that one. EPA's been doing it for a long time, but want to make sure everyone knows. So please let everyone know we are trying as best as we can to eliminate barriers and also make sure folks don't think there are barriers when there are some things that are working. Yeah, that's kind of the big overview of the program. I did focus primarily on the one aspect, right, the $10 to $20 million, what we're calling community-driven investments for change. But we do have a much smaller funding allocated to meaningful engagement and equitable governance. And this really comes from the idea that communities, many communities are not at the place with their government where they can implement these investments. And so for those who want to start to do that, in order to apply for a big $20 million grant in the future, we have $1 to $3 million set aside for that as well. So I'll close it out, but yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
So you heard Alex say new a lot. And I just want to say in the end, doing new things can be really, really hard and scary and challenging. But we know, and you all know, that it is doing the new things is the only way that we are going to realize the change that we all want to see through building this clean energy economy. So I just want to close by saying thanks again to Anisha and Alex for sharing their deep dive expertise in these really exciting, innovative programs. Thanks again to Communities First and to Stephanie and Helen and all the organizers. But thanks to just all of you for everything that you're doing every day to make these programs and opportunities real for your communities and for families. Because at the end of the day, you are where the rubber hits the road for implementation. It's not us up here, it's all of you. And so we are just so grateful for your partnership in this effort. So thank you all. Oh, sure.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Kent, and I'm the Director of Inclusive Finance at the Natural Resources Defense Council, or NRDC. NRDC is an international environmental nonprofit organization, and on our inclusive finance team, we're focused on maximizing the catalytic impact public and private capital can play in shifting our financial system to deliver a more sustainable, a more resilient, a more just, and a more equitable economy. Most recently, we've been very deeply engaged in the $27 billion Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which is one of the largest single investments in the IRA. And we are a proud member of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund's Best Practices Equity and Governance Alliance. I'm really excited to see you all here today and to introduce a leader who has fought for years to dramatically scale our country's green finance capacity and subsequently create a more equitable clean energy economy. Representative Dingell was first elected to Congress in 2015, where she currently represents Michigan's 6th congressional district. She sits on the influential Energy and Commerce Committee and the Natural Resources Committee, and is an outspoken leader on critical issues such as affordable and accessible health care, clean energy and water, domestic manufacturing and supply chain resilience, and protecting our wildlife and natural resources. We are excited to have Representative Dingell here with us today because she has been a steadfast champion for green finance and the development of a national program to accelerate investment in underserved communities. In 2019, she introduced the National Climate Bank Act, which sought to create a first-of-a-kind federal program to create financing for low and zero emissions projects, particularly for communities that are often overlooked. Since then, she has continued to champion and been laser focused on this program, fighting for it to be included in major pieces of legislation moving through Congress. Thanks to her leadership, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund was not only included in the Inflation Reduction Act, but it became one of the largest single investments in the legislation, as I mentioned before. Representative Dingell's longtime advocacy for this program, coupled with her leadership, advancing environmental justice, and fighting for hardworking Americans in Michigan and beyond, helped create a historic investment in communities and climate action. And we're so fortunate to have her today. So please welcome Representative Dingell.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everybody. Are you having a good meeting? I want to thank Adam for that. I have not been to bed. We had a Michigan primary. I got on the first plane this morning so I could be here with you today. I didn't want to. And when I finished my last media and talked to the campaign call at 12:10, my power went out at 12:15. Resiliency. That's another word we all got to work for, is resiliency. But I'm here. And I want to thank the NRDC for inviting me. They are a good partner on many projects. You know, I'm going to go into talking about this in a minute, but I just want to make a couple comments about why I think your being here is important and what my approach is to all of these environmental issues, which is partnership. Find the people that you can partner with. When I came, this doesn't have anything to do with Green Bank, but it has a lot to do with all the things that you think about. I said to Nancy Pelosi and Frank Pallone and a whole lot of other people, and to all the environmentalists, I'm tired of wars. Tired of wars between California and Michigan. And I said there would never be another war between California and Michigan. We were going to sit at the table and figure it out and get it done. And so far, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but we've had 10 years of peace. Hey, it's California. Michigan's a sane state. I know I'm not thinking it myself at this hour, but then when we look at other things along the way, when environmentalists were working on things and the unions weren't at the table, I made a deal that I was going to bring the unions and the environmentalists to the table. The first meeting we had, the CEO of 20 of the top groups were there with the presidents of several unions, and that's how we began to work on EVs and not look at it as a threat. So as you're trying to take these, develop projects to really address these, the more we can work together, the more we can find those partnerships and regional cooperation and cooperation, the easier it's going to be to actually get the job done. So that's I don't know why I started thinking about that while I was listening to them, but I did. And I want to thank all of the advocates, and I didn't do this bill alone that I'm about to talk to you about. I had Chris Van Hollen, who's my dear friend, and Ed Markey did it on the Senate side as well. So, although I always say the Senate's where the bills go to die, but I didn't say that. But maybe we'll get a PFAS action bill someday. But the greenhouse, and I don't tell them I said that, I love them. And they might save us right now in the budget, so I have to behave a little. The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is a historic program that will help us attack the climate crisis head on by mobilizing public and private investment for projects that slash climate pollution in communities across the country, especially what you're all here for, the underserved communities, all while lowering energy costs for families, creating good-paying jobs, and what I would like to see, resiliency to boot. The legislation, as Adam talked about, was passed as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, also not one of the bills that has my favorite name to it, but it's a really critical bill, and it doesn't tell the story. It doesn't tell the story of what it really does, but we're already seeing the effects of that bill across the country. It's been an effort that we've been working on for a very long time, and it's been called a lot of different things. It was a National Climate Bank, a National Green Bank, or as the legislation that I introduced in 2019 and 21 termed it, because some Republicans didn't like the name Green Bank, we renamed it to Clean Energy and Sustainability Accelerator. And the fact of the matter is, my husband, John Dingell, started trying to move this when he was in the Congress. The first piece of legislation on the Green Bank dated back to 2009. But this proven Green Bank model is flourishing around the country. Existing green banks, including Michigan Saves in my home state, have now driven over $9 billion in clean energy investment. That means $3 private dollars for each green bank dollar. I call that a good deal. It mobilizes investment directly into the greenhouse gas emissions reduction projects that are the most in need of capital. Projects that are not only environmental opportunities, but incredible economic opportunities too, so that they're creating good-paying jobs, high-value jobs, and a strong workforce across the country. The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is turning the challenge of climate change into the opportunity for prosperity and for cleaning up our environment. It will help make clean energy financing more accessible to low-income and underserved communities, communities that have for far too long carried the brunt of environmental pollution. And we know that. We're all working and seeing in those communities. It will bring together a comprehensive, diverse, and inclusive network of state and local financing entities into the public and nonprofit sectors. And it will allow state and local entities, nonprofits, and lenders to make their own investments tailored to the needs of the communities that you are in, with the capital and the technical support you need from the National Climate Bank. So it's getting you investment and technical support. And as all you know well, we don't have a moment to lose in this climate fight. We're seeing it again. 70 degrees in Michigan yesterday. When I left this morning, it was still 60. Tonight, it's going to be 0. I'm glad I got out early because it's not going to be fun up there. But we need to think, I mean, it's not just we see the California fires, we see the hurricanes and the tornadoes, but the flooding that we're now seeing, the smoke that came from the fires that were in Canada. This is, everybody, is it real the Republicans keep, I don't want to cast aspersions on one party, on certain individuals, but they keep saying it's not real. This is, and they're, well, I'm going to behave. But it's real. You have to remember what I had in Michigan, who might be on my mind today, but I'll behave. As you all know, we don't have a moment to lose. So last summer, the EPA announced the National Clean Investment Fund and the Clean Communities Investment Accelerator, 2 competitive grant programs that marked the official launch of the $27 billion Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. As of December, the EPA has completed the review panel and initial evaluation stage for all the eligible applications, and the top-ranked projects will proceed to the next step in the process. I look forward to the first round of funding being awarded and to finally getting this funding to the projects and the communities, out the door and into the communities that need them the most. We all know that the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund will help us attack the climate crisis head on and move us closer to an equitable clean energy economy. It will also bring the public and private sectors together around the shared goal of decarbonizing our country and creating jobs and lowering significant energy costs. That's what people, I remember when Michigan's a model for alternative energy sources now. People were screaming and hollering how much solar and wind we're going to do. It's cheaper than the gas and the oil that they're getting, and people are stunned by it. So that we got to tell these stories. So I appreciate your support in this effort. And we just have to keep rolling up our sleeves because I'll behave. But, you know, somebody with sometimes orange hair goes on rants and screams about taking the money away from this bank. And every time I turn around, there's somebody on Capitol Hill trying to take the money away from this project and pull it from the Appropriations Committee. This bank helps communities that need it the most, that have been hit for so many different reasons by industry that was there 50 years ago, left alone, not developed, don't have income, don't have a tax base. And they're also the ones that are getting hit the hardest. We got floods again in Michigan today. I opened a FEMA help center last night in another part. We got to address this. Global climate's real. And it's only working together that we're going to be able to address this and help these communities and our children for the future. Thanks for inviting me.
I guess sometimes it's good when members don't get much sleep because you get the realness that's necessary in this moment. I just want to thank Representative Dingle and honestly for her leadership. The reason why we have a conversation around the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is literally because of her leadership. I know that we've got a couple of Michigan folks in the building. I'd love if y'all could go over there and at least connect with her directly as well. We've got about 15 minutes, and we wanted to make sure that folks in the room could really get an opportunity to also connect before our next panel. So consider this your break, but I want to invite where we started, where Benny Starr reminded us that we are creative beings. This is our moment to really think about how we connect and how we think about partnership. With that, we'll see you at 11 o'clock. Thank you.